Boer. I'm the social worker and admission coordinator at Cumberland Manor. I've been there for about a year. I have a master's degree in social work, and I came from Child Protective Services. So I've went from one realm to the other. And I will have to say this is the absolute best job that I've ever had. I love working at the nursing home. I love my people. I love my coworkers, and it's just a really good place to be. A lot of misunderstandings that a lot of people have had is that they think the nursing home, you're there to just stay there forever. And that's where you're going to go and you're going to die there. That is not at all true. We have so many people at our facility who are short-term care. They go there for short-term rehab. I think our therapy department has skyrocketed and
one of the
improved
best in my
drastically. A lot of familiar faces. Lindsay Morgan is actually our speech pathologist, and she's kind of
she's the facility manager.
Yes, the facility manager for the therapy department. Lindsay is fantastic, and she is there. She puts her heart and soul into her little people. She loves them dearly. Comes in on weekends, nights, whatever she needs to do to meet their needs, she'll do it. And then Katie McCutcheon is one of our physical therapy assistants. Everybody loves Katie. She does fantastic too. We have a new physical therapist, Clint. I'm struggling with the last name. He's from Clinton County. He has an extensive amount of experience.
Hospital-based and nursing home experience.
Yes. He started within the past 2 months, and he has meshed well with everybody and does fantastic also. So he's our physical therapist, and he will do a lot of the evals, and then Katie gets to work with a lot of them from there. We also offer occupational therapy, and a lot of times those three things go hand in hand. I don't know what else. Admission policy, like a lot of our admissions come from hospitals. Not all of them. We do have people who come from home to our facility, but the majority of them come from hospitals. We have everybody from Cumberland, Clinton, Adair, Russell, Wayne County, Bowling Green, Pulaski, everywhere. So that's a lot of times your hospital social workers and discharge planners are really good to get that process started for you if you do have a loved one who needs therapy or long-term care. They're going to be your go-to for getting that started, getting that ball rolling.
Typically it's the families who say, hey, I'm from Cumberland County, so send it to Cumberland Valley Manor first. You know, you get that option of where you want it to go to. So you tell them where you want it to go to. For some reason there was a misnomer a couple months ago where somebody thought we didn't have therapy. We're in the process of changing therapy companies, so for some reason they didn't think we had it. So we corrected that quickly and said, yes, we still have therapy. We offer all three. We're required to be under Medicare to have all three. So we fixed that and we got that corrected. But yes, we have all three disciplines all the time. We'll make sure we do that. So yeah, you have that as the family member who's doing that. You say where you want that referral to go to. And then you can contact us as well, say, hey, my loved one's in this hospital, they're going to be sending a referral. And we can also reach out to that hospital and get that information to come to us.
We have that to happen quite a bit. So, insurance is always a big question, is how much is it going to cost me to come there. Different types of insurance. You typically have people who have Medicare or Medicaid. Medicare is our primary. If you have Medicare, that's typically your primary insurance. Medicare, you have traditional Medicare, and then you also have Medicare replacement policies. In our experience, I think it's safe to say that if you have a Medicare replacement policy, I highly suggest, if you can change back to traditional Medicare, that you do so.
When you're at home, to be fair to replacement policies, when you're at home and you're living at home, they pay well and it's good for you. But it changes how they pay when you have to be in a long-term care facility. They just don't like to give up their money. They pay they're supposed to pay based on Medicare requirements, but it just makes it harder for us to do that. We have to jump through different hoops and they just don't pay as long. They just don't, they give us shorter amounts of time for us to be able to provide that service. Every week we have to give them, send them information. Every 7 days we have to send them information. We still have to come up with the same, comply with the same regulations as far as the skilled service. We have to be providing skilled services, and it still has to meet that medical necessity, but they just make it more difficult to do that. And every single policy, after the person's discharged or we stop billing that to that insurance, they're going to request that to be reviewed every single time. They just make it difficult. That's just the bottom line. They're just difficult to deal with. So it's still, it pays good at home, but when you come into a facility, any facility, it's just difficult.
I use this example.
That's what every
have.
retirement person of
the
any
state.
a state retirement, that's what you have. When you retire, it goes straight into a replacement policy when you retire, because that's what my in-laws have as well. That's
I
what you
use
have.
this example with my
And
mom.
they can't change that, so we deal with that, and we understand that, so we're not gonna not take you because of that. Because that's what everybody has.
You have to, if you have a Medicare replacement policy, before you can come to us, we have to request what we call a pre-certification, a pre-authorization. So before you come to us, they have to approve it. So they have to tell, and that can take anywhere from 24 hours to 7 to 14 days before we'll hear if they're gonna approve for you to even come to us. With traditional Medicare, there is no waiting. You can come at discharge from the hospital, or whenever your hospital is ready to discharge you. I used this as an example to my mom the other day. She's home, she has a Medicare replacement policy. I told her that if she were to fall and break a hip, with a Medicare replacement policy, typically, from my experience, the most that they will allow for you to do a rehab stay, like for therapy rehab, is 3 to 4 weeks at the most. And then at that point, they want you to switch your goal to either long-term care, in which that means they're going to stop paying, or they want you to go home with home health. We had a recent situation where we had that to happen, where we had a person who had that to happen to them, and then they went home. And then it was no time until they were ready. They were back in the hospital again. And that's the part that we don't want to see. When we get you rehabbed and you go home, we want you to be able to stay there. We don't want you to have to turn around and come back, because then you kind of start over.
And we have had many people come to us who have that goal to get better and go home. And we've had many do that. So that's our goal too. If that's your goal, that's what we're gonna do. That's what our therapists do. So it's not unreasonable. It's not unreasonable at all. It just depends on what if you have a replacement policy, what they allow us to do. But we work with them. We will push them. We will fight for you. There's peer reviews, doctor-to-doctor reviews. So there's avenues of appeal that we can do that. So we'll work with them and make that happen. So I don't want to scare anybody off to say it won't happen, because we'll work with them to make sure that we can get what we need for that loved one or for whomever who's out there.
Another thing is, with Medicare, you get you'll hear 100 days. Medicare gives you 100 days. Medicare gives you 100 skilled days. So in order for that Medicare to pay, you have to be receiving a skilled service. That could be any type of therapy, wound care, IVs, G-tube,
Which is gastric feeding. through a
that
G-
type of therapies, in order for Medicare to pay for that. Medicare will pay 100% for the first 20 days that you are receiving a skilled service. Days 21 through 100, there is a $176.50 copay per day that typically a co-insurance or a secondary insurance, a lot of people have Medicaid as a secondary insurance. And that,
Or an AARP.
or
A
supplement. Yes, that will typically pick up and take care of that copay per day. But a lot of misconceptions is that, well, my Medicare will pay for me to stay here 100 days. A lot of times people don't understand that you have to be receiving a skilled service for that to happen. Once therapy discharges you, if you're no longer getting therapy and you're not receiving one of the other things that we had discussed, like IVs or G-tube or wound care, then Medicare's not gonna pay for you to stay.
That 100 days is the potential of 100 days, not an automatic 100
Yes.
days.
And I get a lot of people who come to me and on admission, they'll say, well, my Medicare's gonna pay for me to stay here 100 days. And so then I have to explain to them that that's not exactly.
Right, it's not an automatic.
Yeah, it's not an automatic. So that's a big question that I get a lot.
And if there's those, I know we're gonna be on Facebook, so those who have to apply for Medicaid at some point, and you know, it happens sometimes, we have to apply for Medicaid, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because there's times that our loved ones need that. If somebody's living at home and they need help, that's what they need to do, is apply for Medicaid, because we don't want anybody living at home that can't afford that or don't have resources to stay at home and are living in places that they shouldn't stay. So come to us, let us take care of you, and we'll apply for Medicaid. But we're not in the realty business. So many times people say, oh, you're gonna take my house.
The nursing home's gonna take my house.
I'm not in the realty business. I'm not gonna take anybody's house. So if anybody's told anybody that they're gonna take my house, we do not take houses. However, now Kentucky is an estate recovery state. So after a certain amount of time, if you apply for Medicaid, and there's no one living in the home and it's worth a certain amount, they might ask you to sell that home. So that, because Medicaid's paying for you to take, they're paying for, the state is paying to take care of you in the nursing home.
As your home.
As your home. So if there's a large estate out here that nobody's living in, they might ask you to sell that to help cover what they've paid. Does that make sense? But it might wait until you've been here for a while, and then they might, at your death, might ask for that estate to be sold, and then some of that money be paid back to Kentucky to pay that back. But the nursing home itself does not take anybody's money, or doesn't take anybody's estate or anybody's house. You would be surprised at the people that say, hey, when are you gonna mow that yard of that house y'all?
Yeah.
Oh, that asked me many a time, so I don't own anybody's house. We don't take anybody's house.
No, we don't. And then, part of short-term rehab is when you get ready for discharge. If your goal is to be discharged, then that's our goal for you too, like Mary Beth said. When you get ready to go home, that's another place where I kick in, is where I help find you all the resources in the community that I can possibly find for you. If you need home health, if you need Meals on Wheels, if you need medical equipment, if you need whatever service that I can possibly get for you, then I will be the one to set that up for you before you leave. I work very closely with all the home health agencies, Birchville Medical Supply. Everybody's just a phone call away, and they're always very fantastic about jumping on board to help. A lot of times the home health agencies will come to the facility and meet you. If you've never worked with them before, they'll come and introduce themselves before you leave. They will get everything that they need on our end before you even discharge. So it's a very quick process. And then they'll even ask, do you want us to come the same day that you go home, or do you want us to wait till the next day? So we've had excellent contacts with our home health agencies. I can't say enough good things about them as well.
And thinking of other agencies that we work with Portia right across from us.
Yes, hospice.
We work hand in hand with hospice as well. If that's something that, if there's a situation going on at end of life, we work with them, and they come in and work with us and our staff to provide that service as well.
And I'm sure that you all will have a hospice day where we talk about this during our community meetings, but another misconception is that, if you have hospice, then that means you're on your deathbed and you're dying. That can be true, but not always. We actually have a lady, who came to us hospice, and she no longer needs hospice, so she doesn't have it anymore. So that's a very big possibility. They are just a very good extra resource for our community members. And we work very well with hospice too, so.